Welcome to the very first extended episode of Out of Body Stories. Now, I just had the most mind-expanding, mind-blowing conversation with Janine, and trust me, you're going to want to hear this one. So to me, Janine is an absolute warrior. After initially resisting her gift, she's now leaning in, facing her fears head on, and diving deep into the unknown. So if you're an out-of-body explorer like myself, this is your invitation to buckle up, because Janine shares powerful stories from her first out-of-body experience as a child to gaining sensitivities that let her access future events, to a whole full-blown near-death experience, and yes, encounters with dragon entities in this present day. Now, this conversation blew my mind. It's still blowing my mind. I'm still processing it. So let's dive in. Okay, awesome. Okay, so Janine, like I said to you before, just like massive thank you for joining this session today. I'm super excited to speak to you about out of body experiences, your near death experience, and your just general sensitivities. Yeah, but yeah, maybe we can start off by just if you can just give me a rough sort of, intro into your background and when you started having these kind of experiences, that would be awesome.
Sure. Um, as well, I'm from the United States. I grew up in California, Southern California, very high-paced, high-stressed area. My family was very large. I have lots of siblings, and we were always kind of struggling when I was younger. So those were hard times for sure. But I started noticing a lot of strange things happening that questioned a lot of things when I was 12 years old, specifically. When I was 12 years old, I started having experiences where I was seeing three men in ropes. I was seeing ghosts. People would call them ghosts, just standing clear as day in front of me. I could see every detail from the color of their eyes to the robes that they were wearing or outfits that they were wearing. And I never had any, negative vibes from those experiences. You could see through them, transparent, and they would talk to me and I could hear them. I was having um, a lot of sleep paralysis when I was also at that age, going through puberty. Your body's going through lots of changes. You're tired. I think almost everyone has some sort of sleep paralysis, I think, when they're, especially in their adolescent years, going through maybe some of those changes and other reasons cause it. But I was also having those experiences as a child where sometimes now, with the education I have now, I'm wondering if it was my soul eyes looking at that and I was actually in sleep paralysis,
Right.
or if I was in my waking state seeing that. I still have some questions that, I'm been looking for answers for my entire life.
Mm.
Some of those experiences are pretty intense. I started also becoming a very avid lucid dreamer at that
Okay.
age.
So did the lucid dreams come first, or did the sleep paralysis and out of body experiences come first? And did anything trigger it that you know of?
I know people now, all your skeptics. Okay, I'm married to a skeptic. I've been around a lot of skeptics, and the skeptics have always said it's because I went through a lot of trauma, which at that age I went through a lot of trauma. I had a broken family, lots of loss in my life at that time. My family was struggling. My parents were kind of absent at that time in my life, and as a young age, I was going through a lot of trauma. It was growing up and trying to understand what those experiences were. My skeptics were telling me it's because I was a kid and it was all trauma. But to me, I never accepted that answer. Does that make sense? I
Yeah,
knew the
totally.
truth. I was like, that's not truth. I know the truth. And plus, I had witnesses. There was, okay, so this is this is kind of a cool story. When I was 12, when this started happening, you know, I was being more vocal about it because I was a little scared. I remember trying to go to my mom. It was clear as day, middle of the day. I want to say it was like maybe 6 o'clock at night. Sun was starting to go down, maybe around dusk. And I went into my bedroom and there were three men in robes. I keep calling them the three men in robes. I don't know if they were really men. They were just three beings in robes and like reddish brown robes. You couldn't see their faces, but they were just there. When I looked
Right.
at them, I wasn't terrified, if that makes sense. I didn't like, I was always a fearless child. As an adult, I've been fearless. Like, I've always been fearless. Like, it takes a lot to scare me. I'm scared of human beings more than I would be scared of three, beings in robes. So
Yeah.
when I saw these beings, I turned around, told my mom, Mom, there's three men in robes staring at me in my room. And she told me, she's like, go back to bed. Go back to your room. Get ready for bed. So I was like, okay, and they were just there.
And so you saw this. So was there any sleep involved at this point, or this was just
I was awake.
in the? Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. And how long after your sort of out of body experiences, sleep paralysis, lucid dreams, did this happen? Or was this?
Like within that day, that day, they started happening.
Right.
So I don't know if they came to like, if they were my guides and they said, time to wake up, let's do this.
Yeah.
Which I think actually happened, to be
Okay.
honest, because that night, I don't know if it was exactly that night or the following night, I had my first experience
Right.
where I
Okay.
was sleeping. And I woke up, and keep in mind, I was a kid, I was young, I came from a broken family, I had to share a room with my brothers, and I slept on a bunk bed, right, on the top bunk. I woke up because I felt like the sleep paralysis, the choking in your throat, like you can't breathe, you can't
Yeah.
move. I was frozen, my body was frozen, but I
Yeah.
was consciously awake. And then I thought maybe there's something wrong. I was trying to talk, I needed something to drink, but I wasn't panicking, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I was physically frozen, but not panicking. And when I opened my eyes, there was a man, a being staring at me. And he was smiling at me. And he was like super close to me. But he
Yeah.
was transparent. He had light all around him.
Right.
And he asked me, um, do you need water? He asked me if I needed water. As weird as this sounds. And I was like trying to say yes. So, and he smiled at me, and he gracefully moved down and started to walk out of my room, and he walked through the door,
Wow.
and I
And were
sat up.
you freaked out at this
Yes.
point? Yeah.
So I sat up. I sat up thinking, who was that? So what I did is I instantly hopped off my bed, walked out into the kitchen area because I needed something to drink, and nobody was there. Like, it was just as quick as that, he was gone. And I remember what he looked like, the kindness in his eyes. I don't know who he was, but I have a feeling he's a past relative of mine, from
Okay.
not of this lifetime, maybe from before, but I just had that knowing that that's who it was a past relative of maybe my great grandfather, my father's side. And I remember exactly what he looked like. The next day I told my mom, I saw this man in my room in the middle of the night. And she was probably getting sick of me saying this at this point. There's three men in robes. Mom, there's this, in my
Yeah.
room.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, Mom, I saw this really nice man. He was in my room. He was wearing these blue overalls. He had, blue eyes, white hair. I described him. I'm like, and he was staring at me and was sleeping. And my mom just froze. Like she froze.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
we had a friend, she had a friend named Katie who was living with us at the time,
Yeah.
that told my mom that she was seeing the spirit of a man wearing the exact same clothes that I described. So
Wow.
she was describing him
So
exactly
separately. So she
separately.
had spoken to this. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay.
So that was enough confirmation for my mom that this was true. This is happening. So her friend's not crazy and her daughter's not crazy. This is stuff that's really happening. So, but after that moment, that started happening right after I saw this. Now I know who they are. They're seraphims. But
Okay.
after I saw the three seraphim angels in my room, this started coming on like a freight train. So
Okay.
after that, it was lots of endless nights as a teenager because I would be sleeping and I would hear voices of other entities speaking to my brothers while they were sleeping. I could hear other entities talking to my family in their fields while I was awake at night. I was awake listening to them, and some of the things I didn't like what they were saying to my brothers, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And I probably sounded like a crazy person, you know, at that age, being a kid, saying, I see ghosts, I hear ghosts. And it happened on more than occasion. I saw little boys running through doors and garages. This poor spirit, I saw him. He ran through a garage. He stopped. He stared at
And
me.
this
I
is
looked
in
at
your
him.
house.
Yes,
So
just
coming through your house. Okay.
going
Okay.
through, like just passing through. So I
And
started.
sorry to interrupt, did you develop, so this is obviously you lying down in your room on top of the bunk bed, etc. Did this develop to you actually starting to explore? So you, yeah, getting up and, okay.
Yep,
Tell us a
because
little
the
bit
sleep
about that.
paralysis started happening more.
Yeah.
So the sleep paralysis was happening a lot more. And I knew every time that was going to happen, I knew I was going to see beings. So what I think was happening is, as a child, when I was in that, I was already leaving my body and experiencing some of this with my soul eyes. And it started turning into more of a, I started leaving and going places. I started having dreams. Now, this is what, well, then I called them dreams, but now I know that I was accessing other information.
Okay.
And this is what did it for me. Like you, when I was looking for answers and guidance and trying to find my truth, I was led to Darius J. Wright, and I stopped in my tracks and I started crying. And I was like,
Really?
he finally, the three beings, the three men in robes that can't see their faces, when he showed his picture, I stopped and I started crying. Like, that's what I saw. It's the three beings that I see in my wake state. He started talking about the halls and mirrors. And that was my first big memory of being outside the construct. And that was the first place I went as a child. I want to say I was also around the 12, on my 13th birthday. I think
Okay.
it was my 13, right? On my 13th birthday, I had a crazy out of body experience. Um, the same night I saw the little boy.
Mm.
I know I didn't talk about the little boy. We had a little boy spirit with us, and I saw him maybe 4 or 5 times a week.
4 or 5 times a week?
Yeah, I
Fuck.
was exhausted. I could never sleep.
Oh
He
my
was just like,
God.
I had this out of body experience where I was in sleep paralysis. I saw the little boy, you know, spirit. He was a soul. He's just a soul. And he was, you know, confused. He liked being with my family. He liked being around my brothers and me because he was of our age. Like he was part of my family. Um, and I wasn't scared of him. He was more annoying to me like a brother, right? He wouldn't let me sleep.
Yeah.
But I had this dream that I was taken. Like I felt this pull, like I was being, I can't explain it, but I felt this pull. And this pull took me on this like path. I remember just like landing on path. And this path looked, I was surrounded by water. It was just all water. It was like the path in front of me was ever changing. The road itself would change to cobblestones and gravel or dirt or grass or brick. The texture and the actual path was constantly changing and it was moving as I was walking with it. And then I
Oh,
had a
wow.
guide with me.
Yeah.
There was a gentleman with me who, in a way, I'm not going to say looked like Darius, but he did. He kind of looked physically like Darius,
Okay.
but he was wearing a robe. I don't know what it is with them in robes. They're always in robes. They really are. Like the three men in robes. And then, you know,
Yeah.
the gentleman that took me to this path was also in a robe. And he was just, a little bit further in front of me, and I was following him like he was guiding me, and he was talking to me telepathic.
Oh, okay.
And every road broke off into different sections. So, like, if I decided I wanted to go to this road, the waters were changing. It would be a pool of water, and it would change based on that path. And they were all along the side. So there's one road, and there's all these different little branches that split off with different water. And all these waters were expressing different things. Like some were rough waters and storms, and I saw a lot of horses, and
Oh, wow.
I saw all these
Yeah.
different possibilities. And he was lecturing me, and I felt like he was lecturing me at the time because I was a child.
Yeah.
I'm like, what kind of life lesson am I getting? But I think what he was trying to communicate to me in that way was, this is the path that I've chosen,
Okay.
and I have the opportunity to choose different paths if I want. And if I want to go into this water, I can have this experience. Or if I want to go and experience this lifetime, I can go in this direction. And he was guiding me
Right.
to different ways I can go in my life. And he said,
Okay.
or you can stay on the path you're currently on, and it's not going to be easy, but you can
Mm.
go forward and stay on this one if you would like, and this is going to be your outcome. And I couldn't tell you, I can't remember word for word everything he said, but it was deep for me at that
Okay.
age.
And so this type of experience, how often would you have like this level of experience? So obviously you talked about the little boy who you would see 4 times a week, experiences sort of like in different realms or different sort of spaces. How often would you have those?
It was every week.
Every week. And how conscious are you of those experiences? Like, are they almost like, memories from like, just your general memories of your childhood? Are they akin to those?
They are clear as day for me, those
Okay.
memories. They're
Okay.
more real. There was a point in my life, I want to say maybe when I was like 14, 15, where I started to get excited to go to sleep
Wow.
because I knew I would be able to go fly again.
Okay.
So, because and I realized it's part of my soul record, because I started learning how to access all that. But flying. Every night I would get excited because I remembered, oh, I can go fly again. I can go fly through the clouds. And I remember just
Yeah.
trying to jump off, like, in my dreams, like, I need to fly it. So, like, what I was doing is I was accessing that in my in my conscious state, awake state, and actually experiencing those things. Where I woke up, I was depressed again.
Oh, wow.
I was happier when I was home,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
So, and then coming back here, I was dealing with a lot of, depression, sadness, that kind of stuff. I was fried out. I was exhausted. And then when I started hitting puberty, things started changing for me because I started questioning more about my reality. And I started questioning, like, I didn't want to be crazy. There's nobody I could talk to about it.
Yeah.
Things started happening where my mom started getting rid of all the crystals in our house, and she wanted me to go talk to priests, and
Okay.
psychics were walking up to us off the street. So, like, we would be out in public or walking down in a shopping mall, and someone would walk up to me and my mother and hand my mom a card and be like, I see her aura, she needs training. So,
Wow.
like,
Oh,
they would,
wow.
so people, others,
How many times would that happen? That happen enough times for
oh,
you
it
to be
happened a
like, okay,
lot. Yeah. I
okay,
would have,
okay.
yeah, I would have people just walk up off the street, and still to this day,
And how would they describe your aura? Like what?
I never asked. I didn't want to know, because I wanted it to turn off. I wanted to, I was at that time of growing up that I was becoming frustrated. I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
I didn't have a religious background. My
Okay.
mom, growing up, was raised Catholic, and she had very negative experiences with the church, and she didn't want us to have that experience. She didn't want to raise us on religion. She didn't want to expose us to any of that. She wanted us to make our own life choices. And
Sure.
so I had no idea what religion was. I didn't know all the different variations of religion. So I didn't have that upbringing. I had no religious background.
Got it.
I had no knowledge of any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then my mom started to get scared of it, like, okay, my daughter's experiencing all these things. And then I started accessing time and I started trying to prevent things from happening, which scared my family. And then it made me want to shut everything down.
Okay, so when you say accessing time, maybe, talk a little bit about that and what you mean by that, and maybe like the first instance of, yeah,
Accessing time. Okay.
yeah,
So this one might be, probably won't share this with that side of the family, but I just won't say any names. But when I was, I want to say 17, I went to temporarily go live with my aunt and my uncle who had just had a baby because I was working in Los Angeles and I lived somewhere far from where I had to work. So it was beneficial for me to stay there and I get to hang out with my aunt and uncle and hang out with my new cousin that they just had a baby. And then, it was a shorter drive for me to work. And my aunt was having an affair with my uncle. Okay. So there was, and he was hurting. So I had this ability as a kid that I could, whatever emotion or thoughts people were thinking, maybe it was telepathic even, I absorbed it. Whatever
okay.
energy
So
they
just to be clear, they're together now, but before they got together, they were having an affair. Is that what you mean?
No, they were already married and my aunt was having an affair with somebody else.
With someone else. Okay.
So there was some drama there. There was some family
Yeah.
drama that I
Okay.
knew the truth of what was going on. And I was the only one that knew the truth. And
Okay.
he suspected the truth. He
Okay.
knew the
Got
truth,
it.
even though he didn't know. But, it was one of those things where I was caught in the middle of that energy and I picked up on it very clearly. And all I was doing was sitting on the couch, playing with my baby cousin. And as Darius said, it was like a strong intuition. Okay, but this was a little bit more than this. This has happened to me a couple times where I felt a strong like rush of energy come over me and
Okay.
just knowing. And I
Was it
saw,
like a download? Was it like a
yes,
download you received? Okay.
yes, like a download. Like I haven't heard a lot of people talk about the downloads, but that's exactly what it was. And it was just flashes of images and I felt all the pain and I looked over at him and I just suddenly felt all this pain that he had and I
Sure.
knew what he was thinking and I knew that there was a potential to change the path. And I went into full, let's go into the positive, right? So I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew he was going to die if he did not have love. He was missing love. He needed love. And that's all that was being thrown at me was he needs love. He needs to know he's loved or he's going to die. And I instantly just told him how much I appreciated him and I loved him. And I was genuine. He was my favorite uncle. I loved him. I adored him. And, I begged my aunt privately later that night and I said, listen to me. I said, you need to come clean and you need to lay it out there and you need to let him know
Wow.
that you love him. Do not treat him out of love. Do not, and I told her those
You
words, like,
confronted her.
not make him believe that you have no love for him. Like you need to love him. That I just kept saying that. I went to his best friend. He needs love. I went to his parents. He needs love or he's going to die. And I said those words for 3 days. I was like very, very positive this was going to happen. 3 days later, he accidentally shot himself and died in front of
Oh my God.
And that was traumatic enough for me where I went mute because
Oh wow.
because
My
I did
God, that's
everything I
awful.
could in my
Yeah.
power to stop it,
Yeah.
but I couldn't.
Yeah.
And my aunt had a hard time dealing with it. She looked at me and she pointed at me and she said, "You knew." And I said, "Yes." His parents,
That's awful,
the,
huh?
l- the last thing that I think they said to me is they said I was unwelcome because I was a witch. Call me a witch. I mean, they weren't blood related to me, but that was devastating. I was just a
Yeah.
kid. I was
Yeah.
just trying to help.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I was trying to do. I was just trying to help. And I was trying to change that path and I couldn't. And that was so
Yeah.
dramatic for me that I just didn't want to talk anymore. I wanted it to go away. I wanted it to shut off. And I started
Yeah.
trying to shut off my abilities in bad ways.
Oh my gosh. So that was the first point in which you were like, okay, this is too much. This is too much for me
Yeah.
to handle, to deal with. And when you say, okay, so when you started to shut off the abilities, like, did you succeed? And in what way?
Kind of. I was a teenager and I started to try and dole it out. I started drinking.
Yeah.
I started doing drugs. I started doing things that were harmful to myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was started trying to get far away from my family as I
Did you
could.
blame yourself at that point as well? Because I guess
A
there's
little
the
bit.
side of, yeah, to a degree. So the trauma, obviously, of the actual incident, but also you felt
Yeah.
like you should have, of course you couldn't have, it's,
I was a kid.
but obviously at that age, yeah, it's awful.
So yeah, so that was hard for me. So I just shut up.
Yeah.
That's all it was. It was like I can't discuss this with anybody anymore. I had
Yeah.
a friend that was my closest friend at the time. His name is Bobby. He used to call me his own little personal witch because he he would
Yeah.
I would always say things like, "No, we can't go to the beach today." And he'd be like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because we're gonna get a flat tire on the way. We're gonna be stuck.
Oh,
We're not gonna make it." And he's like, "Well, how do you know that?" I'm like, "I just have a feeling." We get in his
yeah.
Bronco, sure enough, flat
It
tire, we don't
happens.
make it. Um,
And
and
how did people, like, in that case, your friend Bobby, how did people react to that?
he loved it. So because since he was more open to that, and that's why he was a good friend of mine, I was able to confide in him with my experiences, or if I had the strong intuitions, if I had to get him out, I could talk to somebody about it without feeling judged. And this is leads up to another story. But he used to ask me all the time, "Well, when am I gonna die?" And I
Wow.
would be like, let me think on that. And one day he asked me, and I tried to just listen, and it came to me, and I told him, like, "You're gonna die,"
Oh, whoa.
and he's like, "I knew it." Like, he knew it. Like, he was excited. He knew he was gonna die. And I was like, "No, seriously, like, I have a good
Mm,
feeling, you're gonna die when you're 21."
mm.
And he told me that when he died, he was gonna come to me because he knew I'd be able to see him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Emma, he did.
My God, in Syria.
Yes.
Wow.
And he still bothers me to this day, but okay, so you gotta hear this is a good out of body one. This leads
Okay.
up to more of the Darius out of body experiences.
Yeah.
But Bobby and I ended up going our separate ways because I had decided that, what am I doing? Like, I had a quick review of my life, remembered the path dream, or it wasn't dream actually. I was actually out of a construct with a guide.
Yeah.
But to
Yeah.
me at the time, I still thought it was a dream. So I had to rethink my life choices, rethink, what is it that I want? What do I want to achieve for myself? And I thought, I need to stop doing this to myself. I need to go find my happiness. I need to go find my purpose. I know what I needed to get away from. I set
Yeah.
goals for myself, stopped drinking, stopped doing drugs, because I also had a near death experience exploring with drugs.
Okay.
And that's when I started questioning more of our reality, is having that near death experience. And it was a very short one. It wasn't anything. A lot of those people that had near death experiences and they go to heaven and talk, mine was not, it was not that
Okay.
long. It was more of me observing and watching everything
Coming
happen.
out of your body.
Yes,
Right.
just coming out of my body,
Right.
being in the corner of the room, just looking at myself laying on the floor, watching
Right.
everyone trying to keep me alive,
Right.
hearing everything. being pulled back into my body. It was just observing that, and everything's true. And I'm sure you've had this experience where I remember being out of my body, looking at myself laying on the floor, and I thought, what the fuck is going, what the fuck? Because I was a teenager going, what? And then I thought,
Yeah.
oh no, like, I was like, dang it, what did I do to
Yeah.
myself? So, I
Yeah.
had that realization looking at myself
Yeah.
out of body in that near death, but also I wasn't terrified. I made that connection like, oh, I've been here before.
Yeah.
This is what this is. Like, I knew I wasn't dead.
Yeah.
So, but it started to raise more questions
Okay.
about religious or who do I believe? Who do I go to for answers? What is this that I'm experiencing? I know I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
This is so true and so real. Where do I go? This is like early 90s. Like, this wasn't anything that was ever talked about.
Yeah.
Like, where do
And
you
in
go?
and with okay, so with the near death experience that you had, and we'll get back onto to Bobby, your friend, but with a near death experience, were there any subtle differences, or like how did you visualize yourself? So yeah, because obviously, like you said, and I guess that is a major difference. You just kind of touched on it. That a lot of people that have near-death experiences, they may not have had an out-of-body experience before. So for you, you're like, okay, I've been here before. But at that point, did you recognize it as a near-death experience, and did you see any subtle differences? Yeah.
Oh, I knew. Yeah.
Okay.
I knew, like, I just knew. I don't know if it's just my soul knowing because I've
Okay.
I've just been out so much as a kid.
Yeah. Did you see anyone? Did you see any entities or
There
any?
was no
Okay.
entities there. No.
Okay. Okay.
That was something different. There was no entities there. It was just me observing everything. And
Okay.
there's no one there. And I did go to the void.
Wow.
I did go to the void.
During that experience, or yeah.
It was just darkness.
Okay.
It was just darkness, calmness, quietness. So, and peace. And my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my thoughts were, oh no, what did I do?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I just I was reflecting, I was already going through the judgment process of myself, trying to reflect, what did I do? What am I doing? Remember the paths, I'm starting to go
Yeah.
off path. Like, I had that realization. I didn't need any guide to tell me because I already knew, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I already knew this was gonna happen. And then I just kept thinking, oh, at first I was disappointed thinking I ruined it, probably because I probably had the sense of starting to break my soul contract, and then I woke up in the hospital.
Wow.
So it was almost like a
Woke up in
reality
the
check.
hospital.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know
And
if it
I
was.
and where does Bobby fit into this? Was Bobby like a friend that you basically did drugs with and things like
Yes.
that? Was that okay? Okay.
Yes. So I decided I can't be around this anymore. Right. I don't even want to smoke pot. I don't want to,
Yeah.
even though it's like legal and stuff now, like, I don't want it. I don't want any of it. I don't want anything in my body. I don't want I don't need to I don't need it anymore. I'm,
Sure.
just gonna, I moved. I separated myself from all the negativity in my life. I got myself away from everything that made me feel bad. I just started a new life, right? Like, I moved as far as I could at the time. And Bobby and I kind of split ways because he was all into, music and drugs and rock and roll.
Yeah.
So, um, it had probably been about, I was 2. Yeah, I was about, no, maybe I was 21. I was 21. I lived far away and I hadn't spoken to Bobby in probably about 2 years.
Okay.
Okay. So there was a big separation. Not that we had any negative separation or anything. I loved him, but I had I couldn't be around what he was doing. I couldn't go his path. And one day I was in the shower. I don't know what it was about that shower, the water. I felt like it just, it was like another download, right? Like, through the water.
Okay.
I was getting ready for work and I was in the shower, and this song that he used to sing all the time, and it used to drive me crazy, but he loved it and it had such a deep meaning to him. And I
Yeah.
didn't know the words. And now I know the words because I downloaded it. I know it word for word. And the
Right.
melody, and it just
It came
rushed
to you.
into me. And I
Wow.
started singing it. And the words meant a lot to him. And they had deep meaning. And, I could recite them now, but I'm not going to bother you with that, but that's too much. But like, the song had so much meaning. It had such a deep connection to him. It rushed over me. And I instantly thought, Bobby.
Right.
So I picked up my phone, called him, he didn't answer. I called his mom, she didn't answer. Called his sister, she didn't answer. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to go to work, think on this. Went to work, went about my business. When I got home from work, tried to call him again, no answer.
Yeah.
Didn't think much of it. So that night, I go to bed and just like a normal, but as I said, I'm a lucid dreamer. I have
Yeah.
lucid dreams 5 out of 7 nights of the week.
Wow.
And in my dream, it was weird how it started. Like I was in a dream, just going about my business in my field, and I started to hear this giggling, and it was Bobby's laugh. I kept hearing this playful giggle. And I remember looking around, I'm like, where are you, Bobby? Where are you? Because he had this playful laugh, and he used to, I mean, we were kids, right? And when all of a sudden, I think I was in the cathedrals, pretty sure there was this gorgeous, I was standing on this gorgeous path. There were these tall white columns all along the side. And there was these gorgeous, like green hedges between these columns. And it was bright and it was beautiful. And it was warm and it smelled good. Like, I just remember all the feelings I got of being there.
Yeah.
Bobby was peeking at me behind this column, and he looked like the best version of himself. Like he was afraid to show
Yeah.
me what he looked like, right?
Right.
And I looked at him, I said, Bobby? I'm like, you look great. And he giggled like he was talking to me, but he was trying to stay behind a pillar. I think he was trying to not scare me because he was talking to me telepathically.
Right.
It was definitely telepathic because his lips were not moving
Okay.
until we were somewhere else, which was really weird. So wait till we get to this part. So I asked him, I said, what are you doing? And he said, well, my mom thinks I'm dead, but I'm not dead. I'm fine. I'm right here. And I said, what? I actually scolded him. I said, you are doing what you told your mom that, or you made your mom believe that you're dead. And he's like, yeah. He's like, my mom thinks I'm dead, but I'm not dead. I'm fine. I'm right here. And he was like
Yeah.
excited, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, and I told him, I said, that is a terrible, terrible trick to play on your family. I'm like, that's horrible. I'm like, we are going to your mother's house right now, and you're going to tell her that you're not dead, right?
Yeah.
I was mad that
Yeah.
he told me that his mom thinks that he's dead.
And did you know, were you aware that it was a dream, or was it, sorry, that was a lucid dream at this point? Were you aware in the dream? Yeah.
Well,
Or, or
I knew I was dreaming,
you know, you were dreaming.
right?
Okay.
But
So
like I
you thought
just
it was a
went
dream.
with it. I
Yeah. You
just,
just, yeah.
I
Yeah.
was, it's
Yeah.
so natural to me that I was like, okay, so I was conscious in my
Yes.
dream talking to him, but like I
Right.
didn't understand that. I didn't know what a
Yeah.
lucid dream was.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah. Yeah.
know. So like, I didn't have the education then that I do now. And so I, when he was telling me that, I said, we're going right now. So I made him walk with me. I grabbed him by his arm. I dragged him. He's like, okay. But I'm like, let's go. And we started walking down this beautiful path. And this path, as we were walking, started to manifest into the stone path in the front of his house of where he grew up,
Oh,
where his
okay.
mom was. So it like formed into that path to go to that his mom's house. And it was weird because as soon as we walked in through that door, it looked like the front of his mom's house, but a little different, more vibrant, colors, and everything looked a little bit better. And when we opened the door and we walked into the living room, it was suddenly nighttime. It was night, right? We were accessing reality at that point. So like it was, or this plane, earthly realm, because it was the middle of the night. And we realized it was, middle of the night and it was dark. And I looked at the floor of his mom's, living room, and I looked at him and I remember just hitting him.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is serious, Bob. I'm like, look, his mom had made this shrine. Like there was these poster boards with all
Wow.
these pictures of him and me, and for his memorial. There was his service pamphlet, his favorite guitar. Like you could tell she had been sitting on the floor, looking at all these pictures and these memories, and she had made this like picture shrine. And I saw pictures of me and him and our prom group friend pictures. And I looked at him like, right now, go tell her you're not dead. So like I pushed him. I remember pushing him down the hallway. Because he was still just being Robert. He was still the same Robert Bobby, that I know. And I pushed him down the hallway, and his mom's door was cracked just enough where we peeked, and she was laying on the bed. And she was laying on her bed and she was sobbing. She was just crying and crying and crying. And I the having a hard time breathing. And I told
Yeah.
him, I said, go right now, go tell her you're not dead.
Yeah.
And he walked into his mom's room and he sat there and he put his hand on her hand, and he leaned down and he said, Mom, Dad, I'm fine. I'm right here. And he said it twice. He like in her ear, like just said it. And this calmness went over her.
Okay.
Like she stopped crying. Like she just kind of had like an acceptance kind of come over her. Like um, she all of a sudden became calm. She stopped crying. She took a deep breath, like a sigh of relief. And like you could just, I just remember watching her as he was telling her this, and she didn't look at him, right? She didn't like turn
Yeah.
around and acknowledge him. Like she didn't know he was there. Like she didn't see him. And when he turned around and looked at me and smiled, I said, let's go, like it's time to go. And we started walking back down the hallway, and I said, that wasn't hard. I'm like, that's all you had to do was just tell her that you're okay,
So you're still going along with
Yes.
everything that's happening in
Yes.
this.
And I'm
Wow.
like, and so I'm like, you needed to do that. Thank you. Now let's go.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And we walked out the door, and all of a sudden we were back on that beautiful path with the white pillars, and it was light. And then all of a sudden I felt pulled back, and I woke up. I woke up in my bed with this like energy. Like I can't explain it. Like it's like there's so much energy. Like, whoo,
Yeah. Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
can't explain it. But I shot up out of bed, picked up my phone, called Robert. No answer. Called his mom, no answer. Called his sister, no answer. And I sat there, just started crying. I'm like, she's dead.
Oh
Like
my God.
he's gotta
Yeah.
be. Like
Yeah.
um I didn't know,
Yeah.
and it was driving me crazy, and I couldn't get a hold of
Yeah.
anybody. So the next day I went to work, went about my business. Nothing weird out of the normal that day. I was very tired. I came home, I'm pretty sure I slept like 12 hours. I was exhausted. And then the morning after that, I got a phone call. My friend Jamie had called me and she said, Janine, where have you been? And I said, working. Like just working. And she said, everyone's looking for you. She's like, Robert died a week ago.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, oh. And as soon as I got off the phone with her, his mother called me.
Right.
And she said, I'm sorry, I haven't been myself, haven't been able to talk. And she's like, I saw you called. She's like, can you please come over?
Okay.
And I said, I'm on my way. I'll be there in a couple hours because I lived kind of far from them.
Yeah.
got off the phone right away, drove to his house to go see his mom. When I got to his mom's house, when I walked in the door, everything that I had seen, the poster boards, the pictures, the guitar, was exactly what I saw. Exactly. Every detail, the arrangements. I looked at it and I started crying. I was like, this is real. This is happening. And sometimes when I talk about it, I get emotional because it was
That's
so
deep.
real,
That's deep.
right? And I was like, I
Yeah.
was here. Like, I had that shit. I was standing here with her son 2 days ago, and I can't tell her that. Right. So, and she said, Janine, she's like, I got to tell you. She's like, the other night, this is what got me even worse. She told me, she's like, the other night I was laying in bed and I was just crying. I was crying and crying and crying. And she's like, and then something came over me. She's like, I felt like Robert was there. And she said that he
Yeah.
put his hand on her hand and told her, word for
Oh
word, came out of her mouth, he is not dead and that he's fine and he's right there. And when she said that, just whoo, I was
my
like,
God, the chills, huh?
and I was like, yeah, I know. I was in your room with him when he did that. So that was enough to verify for me that this was fact. This is real.
And I'm guessing he was 21 as
Yes, he
well.
was 21.
Yeah.
So
Oof.
I was like, this is so real. This is
Oof.
happening. This is real. This has always been real. And this is happening. What's going on? And to me, that is what started my fury of trying to find answers. So I
Okay.
went to churches. I read every Bible. I read manuscript. I went to dream tenderers. I started reading books, Seven Heavens, what do dreams mean? What a symbolism? What am I? And I could never find
Anything
any
you could
answers.
get your hands on, right?
Anything I could get my hands on. I needed answers of what is this gift I have? What am I supposed to do with it? Obviously, I can't turn it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do I do with it? What is the truth of this reality? Who are we?
Yeah.
Why are we here?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to be believing in a religion? If so, what religion? And
Yeah.
every answer I found in any Bible or conversation with a priest or anything, I didn't find truth in that. All I found was deception or fear or lies or a way to control the sheep. I was so against it. It upset me more because I couldn't find truth, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It completely makes
So
sense.
So I was so infuriated that I couldn't find answers. So I just kept an open mind, kept my mouth shut on things that I would experience because people that were skeptics around me aren't very accepting of it. So it's like, okay, I had
Sure.
this experience, or people would say, how do you know that? I'm like, I just know, like it's just
Yeah. Yeah.
intuition, you know. And as I got older, um, not that, I mean, my intuition's always been, it started to dim a little bit, I think, as I got older. Like it wasn't as potent as it was when I was younger. But it's still there. I still have the lucid dreams.
Okay.
So now what led me to Darius.
I was going to say to you, before we get onto that bit, did you, through your research, through all of the sort of searching that you were doing, is that when you became aware of out of body experiences, lucid dreams,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Oh, I
were
knew.
you aware of like, Robert Monroe and the Gateway experience and all of that? Did you
Yeah.
come
I
across that?
knew. Yeah, I knew that there were different beings because I saw them.
Okay.
I knew angels were real because I kept having dreams that I was an angel all the time. That's why I love to fly. Wings, the perfected version of myself flying all the time,
Okay.
all the time. But I was just accessing a soul record the whole time.
Okay. And how often were you having, so at this point, moving forward, how often were you having out of body experiences, lucid dreams, that kind of thing?
The outer body became a lot less. It was just more
Yep.
lucid dreaming,
Okay.
not a lot less sleep paralysis.
Okay.
That kind of went away as I got older, but the lucid dreamings never stopped. They never stopped, ever.
Okay.
ever. Never,
Yeah.
ever, ever. And now I started facing my fears in lucid dreaming, unaware of what I was actually doing. And now I have answers to what I was doing.
What do you mean by facing your fears in lucid dreams? Like questions and things or something else?
Like fears of just things that are scary, right? Like a bad nightmare.
Okay. Okay.
Have you ever had a bad nightmare where you wake up and you're just like, oh, that was awful? Or you go to sleep and it picks right back up, right? Like
Yeah.
it just, it's a continuous dream.
Yeah.
Or I would have lucid dreams of negative entities in my
Okay.
room or bad things happening to me, demons, those kinds of things, fears that I probably was feeding myself trying to research answers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was probably doing it to myself. And then I decided that finally I had this is when I realized how to become fully conscious in my lucid dreaming was through
Right.
facing my fears. And when I realized, wait a second, I'm in a dream, and I turned around and I looked at my fears, and as weird as it sounds, I felt like I was screaming underwater. Have you ever tried to scream underwater or talk underwater or
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about?
Impossible. Yeah. Yeah. It's just like,
You
"Blah."
know, like just all that power that you try to gather just to say the words, right?
Sure. Sure.
And when I realized, wait a second, this can't hurt me. I'm not having a nightmare. I'm not dealing with this anymore, right?
Yeah.
And when I found the courage to say, whatever I was trying to say, or I am not afraid of you. And I started saying those, or come at me, whatever it is. When I started fearlessly facing those things in my lucid dreams, it was hard for me to say those words, to take that control. Like I was screaming underwater. But once I did, boom, it was like a snap. It would go away. But also doing that would take so much power. I felt like in my soul, but I don't know if it affected me physically, but it would also
Okay.
jump me
Energy.
awake where
Yeah.
I would still have that physical feeling like
Yeah.
I can't explain it, like adrenaline.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So that was just recent. I don't want to say recently, but I'm old now. I tell myself I'm not old, and I think it's working because you probably wouldn't believe how old I am. So, I'm old now. I'm very well into my 40s, closer to 50, if anything.
You look
And
amazing, Janine. You look
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, so I think that, well, I hate that I actually said that. It's the truth. 47 this year. So, yeah, so I'm like, okay. So, and I felt like in my late 30s, I was finally able to take control of that. So I was
Okay.
doing this on my own, still with no guidance, no truth, no answers. Me just trying to find my own truth and becoming absolutely fearless.
Yeah.
I've always been
Yeah.
fearless. It doesn't matter, what it is. Like I have some kind of like protective instincts or just I'm not afraid of anything. There's, a rattlesnake, everyone's gonna scream, I'll go pick it up and go put it back in the forest, right? I've always
Love
been
it. Love it.
that fearless person. Once I confronted it, addressed it in my lucid dreaming, it just became woof, like a rush in my soul being and my reality. Even when I was a kid, I was fearless, but even more so now as an adult, that it's just that's when I became a little bit more awake.
Okay. And
And then
so, sorry.
that's when I just started casually going through stuff. I had more questions because I know that with my intent, if I set my intent before I go to sleep,
Okay.
I can access things. If I have questions, like I don't know how they just sometimes get answered. Sometimes I hear out of body voices and I'll like look around like who's talking to me. Now I know what's going on.
Yeah.
But before, I really didn't. And I get a lot of ringing in my ears. The ringing, it's so, when I ask him to stop, it stops. But now I know what's going on, like, and now that I'm more in tune and I'm starting to allow it more, and I'm starting to,
Yeah, you've opened up to it, right? You've
I've opened
opened
up
up
to
to
it
it
now.
and
I'm not afraid of it anymore. I don't care if people think I'm a witch. I'm so sick and tired. I was called a witch the other day, because of my friend's daughter. I don't know if you were in that workshop, but that was me talking to Darius, where I'm
No.
trying to come awake in a lucid dream by focusing on a ring. I'm like, okay, here we go. Let's do what Darius says. Let's look at an object and let's focus on this ring so I can go back and be an angel. Let's
Yeah, yeah,
go. Let's
yeah.
go. But what I noticed is now that I'm trying to do some of these things that I've been learning, I started accessing time instead. And I'm doing it a lot. Like a lot.
So so let's get to recent time stuff. But before that, so you came across Darius. So Darius J. Wright, for anybody who's listening to this, we're both taken the course. Tell me about that. So when did you come across Darius, and what was your initial reaction when you came across some of his teachings and his videos and things?
So intuition is a thing. Something about ringing in the ears means something. I don't know what. I mean, I do, but I don't. But Darius, I've been really interested in the grays, right? Like the stuff
Okay.
coming out with Congress, all the
Yes.
disclosures.
Yes.
My husband's a science nerd. I've always been, kind of a nerd myself. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, that's kind of cool, like,
Yeah.
because I always knew there was more to us than anything else.
Yeah.
And I know that our reality is, I used to tell people, we're the aliens. We're the aliens. We come from somewhere else. We're just having an experience here. We're not even from
Yeah.
here. So like,
Yeah.
I always said that with truth behind it, because I know that we go on. But the Darius just showed up everywhere. His face everywhere. On my YouTube, like a lot of times when I'm working, or I like to paint a lot. If I'm painting, I'll listen to podcasts. I'll listen to the news. I hate mainstream media. I know it's all just a
Yeah.
bunch of garbage.
100%.
Like
100%.
if I don't have anything interested, that it's really hard to get me interested in other things. But once I find something that's interesting, I'll listen to it. And Darius has been showing up on my everything for, I want to say, maybe about, this is how stubborn I am, probably about 2 months straight. And I
Okay.
just kept passing over this. I'm like, why does this guy keep popping up on my feed? And then,
Yeah.
I would go somewhere and I'd hear the name Darius. I just hear it. Or I'd read it. Or everything just kept, or right. Like all of his parts of his name kept popping up everywhere, or I kept hearing
Yeah.
it. And then like I finally made the connection where I looked at him again and I'm like, okay. And it was just like, I don't know if they can manipulate technology. I never asked those questions. I don't, but he was just all over my YouTube. And I thought it was weird because I've never clicked on anything that was soul, next level soul, or like any of those other
Yeah.
podcasters. I've
Yeah.
never listened to any of that other stuff because I was frustrated, because a lot of the psychics out there that you hear is a bunch of BS. Like, I'm like, what are they talking about? Like, that is not true. Like, I've had these experiences, but everyone's got their own truth and everyone experiences it differently. I've been shown that because they started showing me things in different ways than I've experienced, which is really weird. But they're just teaching me a lesson right now. they I finally gave in. I was like, okay. I looked at Darius. I'm like, I meant to listen to this, aren't I? Big loud ringing in my ear. I was like, okay, listen to it. Within the first 15-20 minutes, I was crying. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, those are the seraphims. The Hall of Mirrors. I'm like, that's where I've been. I was at the Hall of Mirrors. He calls it the Hall of Mirrors. I call it the path room, right? It's the same thing, surrounded all in
Yeah.
water, like different paths that you can jump in, different puddles. I've been there as a child. Like he was
Yeah.
shown. I've been there. I've seen souls in my awake state and sleep paralysis state. I've seen beings, relived my records as a child of those memories of who I really am. And I would look forward to going to sleep so I can relive me being an angel. Because I missed it. I missed having the wings. I missed flying. I missed that sense of just power, maybe it was like not power, it wasn't even power that I felt, just confidence,
Okay.
confidence of being and knowing, and that comfort of being genuine, and what word am I looking for, integrity, just
Yep.
in my
Yep.
full genuine state of being protective and loving and strong. And the feelings are so intense, they're so intense on the other side, more so than being here. I feel like everything's dull.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I wake up, and that's part of the reason I think why I was so depressed as a kid, is because I come back and my body and everything's dull.
Okay.
There's so much people acting out of love here that it's sad.
Yeah. 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 No, it is. It is. And
Yeah,
you
it's just
basically, you were able to resonate with a lot of what he was saying in his sort of out of body experience course, OBE course. And I guess also it was very validating for you that, wow, all of these things that I've been experiencing, somebody else has experienced, but gone a
further.
bunch of steps further
Yeah,
to be
but
able to,
yeah, just listening to him, I thought, I knew, just knowing every cell in my being knew he was telling the truth. And I'm
yeah,
good. I know who's a liar. Read people like a book. So like
yeah,
I know who's telling the truth. I know who's lying. I know who's giving
yes,
partial truths or distorted truths or half
yes,
truths or no truths. I've always had that. I always know when someone has um bad intentions. I've always had that naturally. And that's why I stopped looking. I stopped looking for answers. I'm like, I don't know, listen to any of it. It's just a bunch of rubbish. And then I saw him and I thought, wow, there he is. There's my truth. And I told my husband, I said, I found him. He's like, what? I'm like, I found my Jesus. That's what I said. And he rolled
love
his
it.
eyes, he's like, whatever. I was so happy because I was just taking it all in, just knowing, as I was putting everything together. I'm like, I've been there. What he is explaining, I've been there. I've been to the cathedrals. I've been to the angelic realm. I've been to the seraphims. I see them.
Yeah,
Every
yeah,
once in a while, I still see them. I feel like I see them standing. If I'm like out in nature, I can see them standing there staring at me. My favorite number has always been the number 8. I've always been drawn to the number 8. 8 has always been my number. Even picking up this necklace, not knowing what it was, it's the shape of an
yeah,
8.
yeah, yeah.
And I realized that today because
Okay.
I'm not even joking. I realized that today because I was painting um and listening to some other podcast, and I was just thinking of like all the realms and the construct and how it's all broken down of what Darius has taught, and he kept saying the seraphims are on 8. 8's my number.
What's your number?
8 is the seraphims I see. That's
And
the
since
number I pick all
and
the time.
since you have been on Darius's course, have you been trying to sort of initiate out of body experiences, or have you, yeah, been exploring? And what sort of things have you, yeah, have you found or have you experienced?
So I tried to do this controlled sleep paralysis, and I got there, and I
Okay.
started astral projecting instead. I'm like, no, 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 this is not
Okay.
what I want to do. I'm not trying to astral project. I want it to come out. But it's very hard because um, I don't have a lot of time. I have a
Yeah.
farm, I've got chickens,
Oh,
I've
you got
got
a farm. Wow. That's super cool.
my husband and I stay very busy. I work. I'm not going to say what I do for work, but I have a
Yeah.
very important job that requires a
Yeah.
lot of hours, so I don't have a lot of time
Okay.
to practice.
Okay.
Weekends we're busy because we're gardening, all that stuff. So we don't
Yeah.
have, I don't have a lot of free time. And the one time I did try to do the controlled out of body, out of sleep paralysis, I ended up astral projecting instead. I was like, wait, this isn't all right. And I started to lift out of my body, which is a state I recognize because I do it all the time
Yeah.
anyway. And then I got excited and tried to move and right back in my body. So I was like, okay. And then and I'm still new to his teachings. I'm just going through his second, I'm maybe halfway through the library right now. So I'm still
Okay.
baby Darius student, you know?
Okay.
I'm still learning. But when I tried to do it through the lucid dreaming state, when he says that people have success with this, which I've been doing my whole life, just unaware of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to go to full 100% consciousness and not just think I'm having another lucid dream. So I've been trying, and it's funny because I'm conscious enough in my lucid dreams where in my dream, I'm saying, I'm in a dream. Darius said to do this. I keep saying that. It's like implanted in my head. Darius
Yeah.
says to focus on an object to come, true, and or to come into your full awake conscious state. So I've been trying to do this in my lucid dreaming consistently.
Okay.
And asking questions and doing it with intent. I noticed that is a huge key thing is if I have the intent, if I'm determined, if I ask the questions and
Yeah.
I mean it with full integrity, I genuinely have this intent. I want to know these answers.
Yeah.
I've been getting them. So I've
Okay.
been, because I don't have the time to be there for hours and try and put myself to sleep. If I wake up in the middle of the night, however, when I wake up in the middle of the night and I go back to sleep, when my body's already tired, I'm already like, "Ugh,"
Yeah.
and that sleep, that has proven to be the most successful time. And
Yeah.
I
Same with
think you
me.
said that in
Yeah.
one of
Same
your
with me.
videos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the way. That's the way.
that's the golden hour.
Yeah.
That is the golden
Exactly.
hour because your body's already in that relaxed state.
Yeah.
Um, and if
And
you
actually,
really,
for me, I've checked on my REM sleep, my sleep app or whatever, is that I consistently have REM sleep around 4 a.m. every morning. So obviously, I go to bed more or less the same time, but that is when it's more likely to happen. It's like what he says, maybe like 90 minutes after going to sleep initially. That's where and I think that sort of correlation, I think yeah, rings true basically.
yeah, it's so true. Like clockwork. I wake up every night at 3 a.m. and I have my entire life. I don't know what it is about 3 a.m. Some about 3 a.m. I'm awake. So, and then I go back to sleep or just right before 3 a.m. I don't know what it is. Maybe it means something. I never looked into it, but I wake up every night at 3 a.m. And when I go back to sleep, right then, I do that. I'll try to practice. I'll try to put myself either in sleep paralysis. And what happens is I still have that intent. I still have that question. I'm still trying to do it on purpose. And that's when I access information. So
Okay.
um,
Okay.
I may
What
not
sort
be.
of information are you
So
accessing?
it's like, I don't know. I got questions. I know I haven't ever had like the one-on-one talks with him or talk to anybody that's maybe very experienced in this stuff for any kind of validation or even if it's real or just another lucid dream. But like I've been trying to access more soul records and they're being shown to me. Like I've listened to people talk about their experiences. I've listened to testimonies and I had just recently listened to his workshop about accessing records, soul records. And I listened to people's testimonies, and mine were so different. I was reliving them, where people said like they were just watching them. I
Yeah.
was living them as I was a person.
Oh, okay.
Does that make
So when you
sense?
say living them, reliving them,
Yes.
like visualizing or
Being
seeing
that
your,
person,
oh, again.
being that
So going
being.
back to that, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like actually being, and it's the strangest thing. And this is what I've been working on recently is trying
Wow.
to access my records.
Yeah.
So going in that state in the middle of the night with intent, and I seem to start off in the void.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if anybody can even relate to this. Maybe they can say something in the comments
Yeah.
or something, but
Yeah.
like I haven't had the opportunity to ask Darius this question. If I ever do, I'm gonna ask him. But in my lucid state, if I go in there with that intent, it's like I start accessing my field and then I go into darkness. I think I'm just being taken straight to the void. I don't know if that
Okay.
makes sense. Like, because I feel that I like have a knowing, like, oh, I've been here.
Yeah.
It's all dark. And then all of a sudden, it's like this like it's come to me where I start in complete darkness, and I even had this one where it was like as weird as it sounds, just this boom, this beam of light on me, and like I am not me, I'm somebody else. Like I am a different being. I had
Right.
I don't know what I was. I definitely wasn't human. I may look human, almost godlike, almost like an angel, but not an angel. Like I don't know what it.
I think I did hear in the exit process video, I heard somebody saying something similar to you, but that she had woken up as a blue being or something somewhere
I was
else.
like I wasn't human. I definitely wasn't human. 100% not human. I had I felt like I was wearing gold. Like I had gold armor. Like I have pictures of it. I think I may have posted it in one of the group chats or something, but I was wearing this almost like I can't even explain it. I don't even know how to explain it. It
Sure.
was all I can say is it was godlike.
Yeah, yeah,
It was
yeah.
not human. It was like what you would think like your Olympian god armor, with like the
Yeah,
gold, but it had some like dragon crescents on it. And I was standing there in this armor and I felt like I had wings.
yeah.
I
Did you access memories as well whilst this was
Yes, and this
happening?
is what
Oh,
happened.
okay.
So I had first like I was standing there and I had this overwhelming feeling, this like kind of reminding me of what I am, like a protector, right? I just felt like this protector, this guardian stance about myself as this armor was over my body. And when I looked at myself, it looked like me, but not me,
Yeah,
right? I knew it was me, but it didn't look like me.
yeah, yeah,
It was a lot better than this. But like it was, this, and then these dragon heads came out of the darkness, like full big dragons. There was three of them. I had one on my right, one on my left, and one above my head. And they came and they were like my family. They were nudging me and they were loving me. And then I had this feeling of that was the first time I ever experienced unconditional love. And it was an overwhelming sensation. I was like, holy moly. And I was like, this is my family. Like, I felt like they were my children. Like, I loved them so much, and they loved me so much that I would do anything for these dragons. They were beautiful, and they were talking to me. Like, they were reassuring me, and they were telling me how much they loved me and that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And I was like, wow.
for sure,
And and it was
100%.
it was it was an incredible experience. It was so real. It was so
Yeah,
real. And I
yeah,
woke up and I woke up with that feeling of unconditional love, and it was the craziest thing that it was a little overwhelming emotionally for me. And I was so
sure.
excited about it that the next night I wanted to access it again.
Again,
So my intent was even stronger the next night. Woke up, same thing, 3 a.m. I'm like, I'm going to go back there. Going back to the void, I'm going to ask more about this experience. I want to know if was that part of my records,
okay.
And I just remember saying it over again in my consciousness, in my thoughts, in my heads. I started trying to visualize it almost in a meditative state in that sleep twilight area, that magic hour. And sure enough, I felt like, boom, I felt a pull of my body.
Yeah,
Like I didn't feel like I had to leave my body.
okay.
I just felt like I was
Like
being
you were
pulled everywhere.
traveling. Yeah,
And that was like the next day. It was like repetitive. The next time I tried to do that, the very next day happened again. There I was, but I was there. And I was
same
more.
place.
Yes, in the
Yeah,
void, and then boom, like I could feel that whole transition of me
yeah,
becoming that person again. But
yeah.
this time I was standing like, I don't know what realm I was in. I don't know what realm, that was beautiful. It was absolutely stunning. But there was something like a war going on, like a battle or a war or some kind of thing happening, and I was protecting the dragons. The dragons were behind me, and I was like this godlike woman angel figure And people, or not people, but beings, other beings, like something non-human came to me, stood in front of me, and I trusted my judgment to make sure they had good intentions before they could ask the dragons their questions.
So when you were having this experience, how long did it go on for? And was it sort of like in a timeline?
It was just shown to me. I was just that
Okay.
person.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I still have questions about it because I kept asking, who am I?
Anybody listening to this that knows anything, please let us know in the comments, because this is super,
That's why I keep
super
asking. I want to
interesting.
know more about the dragons. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I kept, and then another thing, everything was 5-dimensional.
Be by
Everything
five
was
dimensional.
5-dimensional. My
Do you
vision
mean?
was 5-dimensional. Everything was the colors were colors I've never seen before in my life. And I still had that feeling of unconditional love. It was just all over me. It was like in my entire being was just nothing but
Right.
unconditional love. And I knew people's intentions. So like it, and what I was doing is I don't want to say casting judgment, but I was
Yeah.
like a shield to make sure entities only with good pure intentions had access to ask the dragons the questions that they wanted to ask because they were going to the dragons for knowledge. I don't know anything about dragons. People keep saying, you know, Darius covers dragons in his workshops. I haven't been there yet. I'm not
Right.
there yet.
Right.
So I
Right. Right.
haven't heard anything. I keep asking, I don't know
I
more about
haven't
dragons.
either. I haven't either.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't know. And he doesn't
Okay.
want to talk about it. So this is what
Okay.
I've learned. Okay. I'm
Okay.
excited about this because
Yeah.
it's so real. It was so real. And I just remember being this figure of power, this guardian, this protector. And I didn't let this being, by the way, get to the dragons. I casted it away. There's something about my
Right.
presence that
Right.
said, no, boom.
Yeah.
They had the wrong intentions of asking the questions they wanted to ask. I turned them away. They did not question it. They not, I don't want to say they feared me. They just said, okay, you know, and they
Right.
left.
And they
But
left.
I
Yeah.
was protecting the integrity of the knowledge that was going out from the dragons. I don't know what that means,
Yeah.
but the amount of energy I felt from that coming in my waking state, Emma, I swear to God,
Yeah.
the next day, I still felt like I was seeing in 5 dimension. My vision felt different. I was looking, everything outside was different for me. The
Was it all
color.
telepathic as well? Like the
Yes,
information?
yes.
Yeah.
And I started thinking I was going crazy. I remember standing outside just looking at my chickens. I have 17 chickens. They're my pets. I love them to death, you know, and they're funny. And I'll go out there
Yeah.
and I'll pet every one of them and I'll talk to them, you know, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they're my babies. And I was stood there in shock because I felt, I don't want to say I felt, I could hear everything that they were saying. They were sitting there communicating with each other, talking to each
Oh.
other, fighting with each other, saying, don't you dare, you know, coming around. And I knew every single one of those chickens, their intentions, what they were
Right.
saying, what they were wanting, what their needs were. And I knew one of them was going to get sick. One of them was starting to feel bad.
Right. So this is interesting. So you're saying that your sensitivity, you had a level of sensitivity that you didn't previously, well, you hadn't had the day before after that moment. And how long did it last for?
I still have it.
You still have that. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the whole telepathy thing, I don't know a whole lot about it, but it's loud. So
Okay.
it is loud as
Have you listened at all to the telepathy tapes? No. Okay. You should definitely check that out.
yeah.
Really, really
So
interesting stuff.
it's crazy, but I feel like I can hear my animals.
Okay.
You know, they're not human, but I can hear them.
Yeah.
And I can hear my husband loud as day when he's angry doing the dishes in the kitchen, right?
Okay.
Like I
Okay.
can hear him. So like I can hear his thoughts. I can hear,
Yeah.
he doesn't know this, but I feel like I can hear everything. I can
And
hear.
has this sort of accentuated since you started exploring this stuff a little bit more? So since accessing these soul records or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that was just one of them. The
So it's
dragons.
intensified. Yeah.
Right. So the dragons was one of the first ones that was shown to me.
Okay.
So that one, I don't know how. I don't know if it's true. I started asking questions about it, and I shared that experience in our workshop chats. I'm going to say her name, Sherry. I'm not sure if that's her real name or not, but Sherry said that she had read what I wrote, and she said that she had asked the White Dragon about me and about that record. Now, to be clear, I don't know who the White Dragon is.
Nor do I.
I don't know who the White Dragon is, but she said that she had asked the dragon who verified that truth with her, that I was that person. And there was a time where dragons were in danger, and they did have kind of guardians or you know keepers, because I felt like I was a
Okay.
keeper. I kept saying the word keeper, keeper. I
Okay.
was like a keeper of dragons, I think, when I was trying to write it down, because that's what I felt like. I felt like a keeper.
Yeah.
And the dragon called it key pass.
Pass. Okay.
Pass is, I guess, how she said they pronounce it, key pass, which connected to where I get the word keepers,
Keeper. Yeah.
keepers from. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
she said that word, and it connected with everything that I had experienced, and the fact that she was accessing, maybe she's very well versed in accessing the other side to do all this stuff as well, and she verified that information for me, which made me feel a little bit better. But I still don't know enough about the dragons to know that
Yeah, for
experience.
sure.
But I'm going to say this, I'm just going to follow my intuition here, that I feel like the dragons, I started asking questions. Why doesn't Darius want to talk about it? Is because I think the dragons are here present. I think they're here trying to help raise consciousness
Okay.
with knowledge. I don't know these answers, but I have a feeling that they are here. He doesn't want to jeopardize any of that. He doesn't want to
Right.
put that in people's fields. He doesn't want to, if he wants to keep that private, he's got a good reason. And I think it has a lot to do with that. And I don't know
Okay.
how I know that. I just have a knowing. I just
That's the
know.
sense you have. Got it. Got it.
Um, I just know. I
Okay.
just know. I don't know how I know, but I just know. So I respect that he doesn't want to talk about it. He knows probably a little bit more than I do, but that was one of my soul records, and I still have questions about it, but there's a
Yeah.
lot for me to learn.
Like,
So
yeah, like we said, if anybody has any more info, please leave it in the comments. It'd be interesting, fascinating to know a little bit more about yeah, that side and what realm that relates to, and yeah,
yeah, I have no
all of that kind of
idea.
stuff. So we've been talking for an hour and a half now.
I know. Sorry.
Because the time difference for anyone who's listening, time difference is pretty large between us at the moment. So it's my morning, early morning at the moment. And I've got a flight to catch tomorrow.
Okay,
But
yeah.
anyway, it's all good. It's all good. But I've got maybe one last question, Janine, for you, which relates to, I guess, your experiences now, your sensitivities now. I think you mentioned something about knowing when your niece was going to be born or something like that.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit more about that and yeah, that experience of
So,
communication or yeah.
yeah. So I'm an auntie.
Congrats, by the way.
Yeah, I'm very excited. And my brother, which him and I have this connection that is unbelievable. Like, we laughed because our PIN codes for our bank cards were the same, or like the numbers will follow the same sequence, right? Like, him and I are like twins. I can't explain it. He's like a twin,
Yeah.
me, just the male version. A little bit more level-headed than I am, a little bit smarter than I am, but he's probably the best person in the entire world you would ever meet. He's the most gentle, loving, kindest soul in the world. And I love him, and I'm very connected to him. And I'm very excited for him. He's always wanted to be a dad. And when I found out that him and his wife were expecting, I was extremely happy. I was like, yes, he's, finally going to be a dad. He's always wanted to be one. He's going to be the best dad. And I started visualizing, like, what is she going to look like? Oh, she's going to be so beautiful. Her mom is beautiful. He's beautiful. Like, they're just going to have this gorgeous child who's going to be so smart and so loved. And I just kept thinking about it. This child is going to be the most loved child on the face of this planet, right? It's just, there's so much love. I have so much love for this child. And it was an overwhelming feeling of love. And trying to access my soul records and who I am and all these questions that I've been asking myself lately, who's my soul family? What's a soul cluster? You know, who are, you know, these people? And I started having this dream about a baby. Now, I don't know if I was accessing a soul record or what was going on, but children, I was surrounded by all these children,
Yeah.
love children, and I kept having this vivid dream every single night. And this one baby, this beautiful baby, saw her, and I was holding her, and she told me her name was Yolanda, but she told me telepathically, right? She named herself. And then the next night, she told me she was another person. She had another name, and I kept having this dream, and I kept having this birth experience of her being
Okay.
birthed, right? And it's weird, like not that.
Were you embodying like your
Yes,
sister-in-law or something? Okay.
I was the one pregnant, which is really weird. The truth is I've never been able to have children. I've never given birth, but I had the full experience of the birth, the pain, the warmth, the blood, everything
Yeah.
that is gross with giving actual childbirth. I had that experience, and it was this beautiful baby girl.
Yeah.
But this girl was not mine, and I knew she wasn't mine. So it's just the weirdest thing. So I kept for weeks, I kept accessing this child. And then it just came to me. Like I woke up and I think I told my husband this. I don't remember if I did or not. I told somebody. It may not have been my husband, but I knew what her name was going to be. I told
Okay.
him that it was her initial was going to be an S, but her middle name was going to be Allison, and her last name, which is my brother's last
Okay.
name, which I'm not going to say because I
Yeah.
keep that
No, of
private.
course. Of
But
course.
like,
Yeah.
but I knew her first name would start with S. I knew her middle name and last name. And then a couple days later, I kept telling my husband, she's going to be born on your birthday. You know, he's like, no. I'm like, because her due date, I believe, was like the end of April.
Right.
And I'm like, no, she's going to come 2 weeks early and she's going to be born on your birthday.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, she's not going to be born on my birthday. I'm like, she's going to be born on your birthday. I was a day off,
Okay. Okay.
but the labor happened.
Okay.
But like, um, maybe about 2 months before she was born, I asked my brother, can I know her name? Because I wanted to, he wanted to keep it a surprise. I
Yeah.
was right on the name. Her first
Okay.
name starts with an S. Middle name is exactly what I said it would be.
Yeah.
Last name. So I was right. And then his birthday was on the 13th, and she was born on the 14th.
Okay. Wow.
So I was very close.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The day,
For sure. For sure.
very close. So, I mean, it was intuition, it was dreams. And then I felt like I met
Yeah.
her before she was born, right? About a
As
week
well.
before she was born. I was trying to access more soul records, and I was in, I swear to God, it was the Inca Empire at its time.
Wow.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
I think I asked if it was possible to access other constructs besides this one when you're in your out of body state or in lucid dreaming states. I don't know. Some people said yes. I don't know where I was, but I felt like I saw these giant birds that looked like pterodactyls. And it looked like the Inca Empire. You know what I'm talking about? Like
Yeah.
the Inca, like the
Machu
ruins on,
Picchu or something.
yeah, like on top of, mountaintops. But there was
Yeah.
these gorgeous bridges that like bridged from like place to place. And there was these giant birds flying around, almost prehistoric looking.
Sure.
And I saw my brother and his wife, and I was trying to access my niece. I'm like, I want to meet my niece.
Yeah.
Like I had the determination, the intention. I just want to meet her. I want to hold her. I want to love her. I want to meet her. But she was part of this empire. And she was a high rank, almost princess of this place that I was in. Like she was a high rank princess or high rank being of this place that I was, and I wasn't able to access her because I wasn't a high enough rank. Maybe it was a vibration, or
Okay.
and I couldn't access her because I wanted
Yeah.
to meet her. And my brother told me, he's like, you'll meet her, you got to give it time, you know. And I was like, but I'm here at a core. I want to meet her now, right? Like that was my intention, and it was a very vivid dream. Like I remember feeling the humidity of the place. Like I felt the humidity on my skin. I was hot. There were,
Yeah.
mosquitoes buzzing around. I remember getting in the water to cool off and seeing all the beautiful fish, and the water was different. And like I felt almost like I was in a different construct.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But when I went looking for anything similar to where I was, it looked like the Inca Empire
Yeah, yeah,
during
yeah.
its time, only the waters were higher. There was like
Okay.
waters, like there was water, and there's like these giant birds, like they look like pterodactyls, and they were, flying like three of them at a time. And it was crazy, but I wasn't able to access her because I was in her realm. I was like in her field, maybe
Yeah,
her soul. Maybe I was
yeah.
trying to get to her soul. And that's what I think
Maybe.
happened, is I was trying to meet her in her true state right before she
Yes.
was born.
Right, right.
And I think she was trying to prepare herself to be born.
Born.
That makes sense.
Wow. Wow.
So like,
It's
I
pretty
don't
deep. It is pretty deep.
is, but that was the knowledge, the intuition I got from that
Yeah,
experience.
yeah, yeah.
But she's here now. She's gorgeous, and she is
Amazing.
special. She's a special, beautiful baby. It's interesting. It's just, I feel like I've been trying to access her, and I feel like I've been accessing her, and I
Sure.
feel like I've been learning other names that she may have had, or
As
maybe
well.
there were names that were being thrown around, or I don't know, but her name kept changing
Okay.
earlier, and
Okay.
I just had this knowing. I just knew what her name was going to be. Maybe when they
I
made
mean,
the
that's
decision,
that it is that on its own is incredible. And
probably
like you
when
said, you
they
have that connection as well with
with
your
my
brother.
brother.
But yeah. But wow, Janine, like thank you so much for sharing all of that. I mean, one thing I can say for sure is that you've just got this energy and this, you've been through a lot. And obviously some of those stories that you shared were, yeah, heart-wrenching. But I think it's really beautiful, really powerful to see that you are persevering, you are, moving ahead, really exploring this stuff and trying to get to the bottom of it and hopefully getting some sort of like, I don't want to say closure, but just like you're reinforcing that there's something in this. Like we know, I know, like this stuff we're on the periphery of all of this, consciousness and our brain and all of these things. And yeah, I just love that you are exploring it with all of this tenacity and going like,
Full speed.
facing your fears, going straight ahead, going into it because it's important. We need to do it. So thank you again for sharing everything. It's been amazing speaking to you, and I hope to speak to you again. As things develop, I want to know about
More.
the dragons and
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know
exactly all of
anything.
that.
No, I tried Googling stuff about the dragons, and everything I saw was false. Like, this is all a bunch of rubbish. It's not true. Everything that I'm reading is false about the dragons. I stopped looking because I was disappointed in what I found, right? Because it wasn't true to me. So that's why I started asking the questions.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's keep asking, please,
Yeah, I keep
because
asking questions.
let's find out.
Okay. Well,
But
thanks for
yeah,
having me.
thank you so much. Thank you. Take care. Let me press stop on here.